Is there a wait list normally for this?
No,
kind of
because
assessment?
for stuff like this is you're paying out of pocket, right?
Okay.
So, whatever that cost is, you're going to incur that cost, and that person's going to send somebody to your home to do that assessment. If all Dane gets is 1 hour a day, Dane's just going to get who can go for that 1 hour. And is it really going to be the right person? Hopefully, but it might not necessarily be the same type of relationship, unfortunately. It's now I'm stressed. I'm looking for someone to give me some support. So Dane shows up. Dane doesn't do a good job. Dane might hear it from that individual. Mm-hmm. That company might hear it from that individual. But often we have to remember that it's probably not about Dane. It's probably not about the company. It's that individual is stressed beyond stress because their loved one's in a situation. They're now in a situation that they have no idea how to navigate.
Hi, everyone. And guess what? We're back with another Sandwich Years. So for those of you who are just dialing in, Sandwich Years is basically when you are taking care of the top bun, potentially an aunt, an uncle, your parents, some sort of elderly. And then when you're looking at the bottom bun and you possibly have a dependent of some shape or form. So it could be your own kids, nieces, nephews, can also be fur babies and animals, but you are taking care of the top bun and the bottom bun and you're stuck in the middle. So we call that squeezed and blessed. And so today we have a supportive brand with us and a friend of mine named Dane. So Dane, if you can take a second and just introduce yourself and tell us what you do, where you work, and how long you've been in the industry for.
Sure. Happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me. So Dane Clarke, president and CEO of a company called Stay Home Forever. So we're in the home care space. I've been in this space for a long time, so that might give away my age. So we'll leave it there. But, probably 20 plus years of home care, healthcare experience, whether, from the hospital, WSIB side, and really kind of honed in on the home care side to where for me was the ability to use my business acumen and really give back and help those and understand the different space. So, happy to be here and look forward to discussion.
Awesome. Okay, so home care, or not even care, because I think at the end of the day, we got two sort of nuances here. As you get older potentially, or also if you have disabilities, you need care. Now, where that care is, ideally, I know for certain cultures, it's ideal to be at home. What kind of signs do you normally get that somebody would need extra help or care?
So I think, the first thing I'll touch on is that sort of not need support and cultural care, but understanding you need support to begin with. So I think realizing that, as a caregiver, whether it's like you said, for the elderly or for someone your own age or for a child or, pet or an animal, whatever it might be, is recognizing that you need support. And I think often we step back and we say, I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. And I'll share an example of a conversation I had just yesterday with a lovely lady who called, and she ended up at the ED because she was taking care of her husband, who's got Parkinson, who's got dementia. And the ED told her, you have caregiver burnout. So simply by taking care of your loved one, you aren't able often to take care of yourself. And I think, sometimes it's unfortunately an episode like that makes you realize it. So you have to listen to your body. You have to listen to the signs of, hey, I'm not sleeping well. I'm not able to go get groceries. I'm not able to just go for a walk because I'm taking care of somebody 24/7. So, those are some of the basic signs and some things to consider, but it's tough. It can be tough.
Yeah. And first and foremost, you're in your Sandwich Years, are you not?
Yes, I am.
And so the gist of first and foremost yourself is key,
Absolutely.
But then also taking care of elderly. Yep. Elderly, they want their independence as long as possible.
Yep.
And so with that, what can the support look like? Like, what can they get help with? Like bathing, cleaning, shopping, talk to us a little bit about that.
So you can really so again, I'll just reference this conversation I had yesterday. And the conversation I had with this lady, lovely lady, and we were on the phone for probably about half an hour, 45 minutes. And she was just blessed to be having a conversation with somebody, I think, differently than her husband. Not to say she doesn't love her husband, but clearly just a conversation with someone who's able to listen and understand maybe what she's going through. And really, she was looking for support for someone to come and play a game with her husband, which occupies his time. Maybe someone to come and help cook, someone to help do some light cleaning, because she already has someone coming in to clean the home. But maybe now you can combine that. It says, hey, this person coming in can also help with my husband, can help me prepare a meal, which allows me to maybe get a nap in or do something different. and that's really what she's looking for. So when you ask about services, we can talk about this shortly, but there's government services that you get as a, resident of Ontario, but those are limited in terms of what you can do. So companies such as ours or others would be able to provide you a bigger scope of services to truly what I think is support that you need. So not kind of staccato of, hey, it's just coming in to help bathe or help dress and then get them out the door. But what else can I do to support that family or that caregiver or that client? So I think, that's how I would answer that in terms of services, but really you can do almost anything.
Okay. So I know for my dad, when he got diabetes, for example, he got diagnosed. He thought it was the end of his life. And I was just like, Daddy, there's about how many people who have diabetes? But for him, it was a change of lifestyle. And so he was just like, how do I cope? And then they said, you know what? You can get a PSW to come and teach him.
Yep.
And so a PSW can be like almost like a nurse too. They have some sort of medical skills, I guess.
So there's a limitation there. So I'll jump in just to say that PSWs have a certain scope that they are kind of defined to.
Okay.
What you'll hear often is a term that they'll use called delegated tasks. So a PSW can be delegated to perform certain tasks. So a nurse would come in, a physio or an OT would come in and delegate those tasks to that PSW, which then would allow them to do a bit more than they normally would do. So, by nature, a PSW is not what they say a clinician, right? So they didn't go to school and have a clinical designation. They went to school and became a certified PSW.
Okay.
But that only gives you a certain scope within the healthcare space. And much needed scope, don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't do certain things that a nurse or an OT or a PT could do. So,
okay.
But they can be delegated to provide those exercises. So the physio would come in the home, the physio would delegate Dane to provide the care for Chantal. And then I can do those additional tasks to support you at that time.
So PT, OT, let's make sure we know what those acronyms are, just in case.
Yeah, so PT being physiotherapist, OT being occupational therapy.
Okay. And then a nurse.
A nurse.
And then a PSW.
Correct.
Okay. So when you're engaging with a home care facility, I guess the first step is that they'll probably send in someone to assess, like talk to us. Like, how does it work?
The way we do it and the way I'd say most companies do it is just that. They'll send in maybe an occupational therapist, so an OT or a physio or a nurse.
Okay.
And do an assessment based on sort of, I guess, what the care needs might be of that family. So maybe it's a nurse that comes in first and then the nurse does the initial assessment and says, you know what, maybe you need a home safety assessment because, dad just fell, is coming home, and dad has to navigate stairs, which before wasn't a problem. So that OT is trained and the physio is trained to understand his gait, understand his walk, understand how he's going to get up and down those stairs. And maybe he can't. Okay. So maybe for the first 2 weeks that he's home or the first week or whatever it might be, he's got to live on the main floor.
And they'll tell you that recommendation.
Correct.
Okay, so literally someone will come in and look at your house, which is good. They'll also want to look or make a visit with that loved one so they can understand their mobility skills and there's things that they can do. Will they want to be all over the house or just mainly where he is going to be?
I'd say if you get, you'd probably want to take a look at the entire home environment.
Okay.
If it's a small little condo, then probably, pretty straightforward. They come up the elevator, they go in the door, and you're set. But if it's a 2-story home, and again, to your comment, people want to live at home longer. So if I've been living in this home, and this is kind of like my domicile, like I had my children here, so we talk about sandwich years, they had their children, their parents would come over, but now they're at a point where I don't want to go somewhere. I want to live in this house. So they're going to come in and take a look and say, hey, you need a grab bar here, you need a ramp to get up into your front foyer. You need this to, navigate in the kitchen. They're going to go through all of that. And then the family can make a decision. Okay. Because maybe the decision at the end of that assessment is we have to move.
Okay.
Right? Because that's a reality. The reality is that home assessment and that OT may come in and say, you know what? This environment is going to be unsafe. Whether for now or whether for the future. So it's a really important assessment, especially when, and I'll say this, is most people don't think about this until something happens. Like that is the biggest thing, right? So as much as I've been in this industry for a long time, and you kind of think about, I'm starting to get older, my dad's getting older, my mom's getting older, my aunt, my uncle, whatever it is. But it's not until something happens. An acute episode ends up at the hospital. Now they have to come home and they're like, oh, shoot, what do I do now?
So one of the key things I think I was learning as well is before they get released from the hospital, get the OT in to look at it. The hospital will give some resources, but you can also top up with resources. Is that how it works too?
So I would say that that's part of the problem let's talk about our healthcare system for a moment, is that, it's what I like to say the sick system. You don't use it until you're sick. So that preventative OT or physio visit for your loved one in advance of something happening could prevent that from happening. But again, we're all busy. We've got children. We're in the sandwich years. We're doing multiple things. We're like, oh yeah, I'll get to that. Yeah. I'll get to that. But then unfortunately,
you're forced to get
happens, and now you're in it.
Yeah.
And now you're trying to figure out, what does in it mean? Like, what does that mean for my family, for my loved ones, for my parents, for my aunt, for my uncle, whoever that is?
Yeah. And I mean, that's the whole sense of the sandwich years is to kind of prep us for this piece, but you're never fully prepped.
Correct.
So I think at the end of the day, I love this. So get them in. I guess one of the key tips is get an assessment. You call and ask for an assessment from a home service.
Yep.
Like yourselves that offer it.
Yep.
You'll come in. Is there a wait list normally for this?
No, because for stuff like this is you're paying out of pocket, right? Okay. So, whatever that cost is, you're going to incur that cost, and that person's going to send somebody to your home to do that assessment. Post, acute episode or injury, when they come back home, that's where the government services kick in, where then those assessments are covered by the government, right? But again, that's after the fact. So it's just a matter of, where are you in those sandwich years? Where are you in, mom or dad's care, or your child's care, or, an adult with developmental disabilities? Like, where are you in that journey that gets you there?
Okay. And so, as we said, it doesn't necessarily need to be an elderly. It could be anybody, including yourself, where you can get support at home.
Yep.
Okay. So we get the assessment. They tell us in writing, or this is what we need to do for the home. Ideally, we get someone in to do all of those things. Is there normally, so if you get a PSW coming in, is there normally a minimum time that they can come in for? Or can they come for an hour? Can they come for half an hour?
So there's two ways I'll answer that question. One is there's government services where it is time boxed. So maybe it is where Dane is getting services 3 times a day, but those services and those visits are 1 hour, morning, afternoon, and evening. So they're really time limited to say maybe it's getting Dane up in the morning, help him get breakfast, help him get dressed. Afternoon, help him with lunch, whatever he's looking for there. And then evening, probably bed routine, get him ready for bed and help him get to sleep. Sometimes people will kind of put those hours together to make it make sense for the family, or whatever makes sense for the individual. And then there's obviously the private services. We have, folks that are got 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. or 24/7 services. But obviously that gets costly. So not everyone can afford that. But yeah, you can essentially do either or. Obviously government services is a little bit more limited and you can maneuver those hours. But yeah, on the private side, people will, that can afford will pay for whatever it is for their loved one.
Okay. So the government side, less control, obviously. And that is also, I believe you get the social worker and people to kind of help navigate that piece, the government side. And then the private side, a little bit more negotiable to work within your schedule,
Correct.
Which is ideal because this way then you can also kind of almost have a life too. We had a guest who literally worked around the PSWs that visited. And so, I mean, that calls for if you work on your own, but like when you're working a corporate job, you don't have the dictation of time. Okay, so now we understand we can get them in to do at different times. What we can get them to do varies. And so do we don't have to, do we give them keys to our house, or normally you should be home to open the door?
So there's individuals that we serve today where the door is left open. So from a trusting environment, because maybe dad or mom is bedbound. They don't have the ability to get up and open the door. So then you have to have someone, maybe it's the individual who lives with them. Like you said, they're got to go to work in the morning, but at 9 a.m. they're leaving the door open. Or almost like the real estate world, there's a lockbox. Right? So put in the lockbox code. I take the key out, let myself in. When I'm done, I put that key back in the lockbox, whether it's because there's somebody else coming to help service that individual, or just, you're done with the visit. But so from, phone calls, from lockboxes, leave the door open, just come on in and service and help mom and dad. it varies.
Okay. And lock boxes, is that something that we could get from, like, do you provide those things or do we get it ourselves?
I'd say most people can just grab it at Home Depot, Lowe's, all those stores, not to brand anybody else, but
Well, no,
stores.
No, I think the key question is, because sometimes what also happens is you're not getting the same PSW.
Correct.
And that also could trigger your loved one. Like, it totally triggers them because
100%.
they build a relationship if they're constantly seeing them. And so if they interchange, like, do home services try to keep the same?
Ideally, I think every company, ours no different than anybody else. The goal is to have consistency. We have a client, they've got dementia and they've got lots of family to support. But when that specific PSW is unavailable, they'd rather no one come in because their loved one has such a great relationship, also has dementia. So, somebody net new coming in could disturb, sort of their natural routine. Mm-hmm. So they would rather go provide that care if that individual, for whatever reason on that day, is ill, or they've got something going on, or they're on vacation or whatever it is, because they also need, lives as well, although they're supporting so many important people. And that's what they'll do. They'll just say, you know what, all good. We'll take care of it tonight.
Okay. And I know when, for my mother-in-law, when we had multiple PSWs coming in, it was near COVID. And at that point, that was, I think, a huge issue because multiple were coming in and we don't know what they're bringing them. And this is where it's like, can we get someone common in? So you can have a request like that, but it's not necessarily that it could be met based on their lives. Yeah. So, I mean, that's one of the things that if you are having a PSW, you may ask, can I get the common person?
Yeah. And the reality is, just to touch on that, is you may not get it right the very first time.
Okay.
So Dane coming to see you, maybe it works.
Maybe it doesn't.
Maybe Dane coming that first time, Dane is not the right fit.
Okay.
So you provide that feedback. So let's find somebody else. So now let's find Steve. Steve's not the right fit. Sometimes you're not going to get it right. And what I often tell people is sometimes you're not going to get it right, but we will get it right eventually. Okay. And that's really just, is it the right type of behavior? And obviously, we'll ask the right questions and try to understand. And from the private side, it's a little bit easier. From the government side, unfortunately, sometimes it really is like, if all Dane gets is 1 hour a day, Dane's just going to get who can go for that 1 hour. And is it really going to be the right person? Hopefully, but it might not necessarily be the same type of relationship, unfortunately. So there's that dynamic as well.
Okay, so be patient then is kind of almost
sometimes, and which is tough though, right? When we think about the caregiver, to the conversation we were having earlier, it's now I'm stressed. I'm looking for someone to give me some support. So Dane shows up. Dane doesn't do a good job. Dane might hear it from that individual. Mm-hmm. That company might hear it from that individual. But often we have to remember that it's probably not about Dane. It's probably not about the company. It's that individual is stressed beyond stress because their loved one's in a situation. They're now in a situation that they have no idea how to navigate. So that's where sometimes we just have to listen and understand. And probably next time Dane goes in, hey, it might be all right.
Okay. So try to remove yourself from the situation to allow for objectiveness.
And easier said than done. Easier said than done.
100%. Like, when you're taking care of someone I love truly, you're doing tasks for them. And to be quite honest, their reaction is going to be more important than anything. And if they're not taking to them. So like, I know when my dad had different PSWs as well, he didn't take too many. What I found for him is when they represented his culture, it worked really well. For sure. Because they had something to talk about. 100%. and they were able to joke around or something like that. Or they were able to talk him off the ledge, where I could not say certain things to him, but they could.
100%.
And so they have that kind of relationship. So sometimes it's even great to have someone come in that like you might say the exact same thing, but having someone else say it means totally different. And they'll 100%. Allow them to take more care of them.
100%. Even understanding what did they do in life? Were they a police officer? Were they a firefighter? Were they a doctor? Were they a lawyer? Were they a plumber? Were they a construction worker? Now when that person comes in to that conversation of, hey, maybe they're starting to move in the other direction of comfort and feeling uneasy, but you can bring it back to a story. Oh, that time you arrested that individual, or that time you put out that fire, or that big building that you built, they might start telling a story. Now things start to come back down and the conversation shifts And now I can provide that care a little bit easier. So those things don't often always happen until maybe few visits in. So it's not always right away. So again, that patience piece sometimes, but again, government versus private, it's a bit of a different environment for sure.
Definitely. But I mean, sometimes it is, because it is for your loved ones, you may need to do the private for a second just to help alleviate some of the stress for yourself as well as for your loved one. That's what you do. And so, I mean, I have another friend who, when his mom comes, he gets a PSW to help because he can't do it himself. And so, I mean, that is not going to be the same PSW, but at least it's a PSW that's going to create some sort of support. And for PSWs, I love, bless them because they have to deal with so much. I know that for my dad's, when my dad passed away, the PSWs were crying more than I was because they saw them yesterday. And so they
become part of the family.
Yes. And that's the other piece. And so they're listening to the stories. They're listening and being that piece. So you gotta, when you find a really good one.
Listen, I've been in this industry for a long time, and in the corporate world and the companies I've worked for now, this one, I tell the PSWs, quite frankly, without you, I don't have a job. And the reality is, without you guys, the amount of care that's provided that alleviates the entire healthcare system, I think sometimes goes unheralded, where people don't realize, and, pardon my French, but PSWs get shit on a lot, right? And people are like, oh, well, they're just coming to just bathe and shower. No, but if they don't do that, then who's doing it? And if they don't come in and do those basic necessities of, what we call ADLs, active daily living, then that individual ends up back at the hospital. So now we talk about hallway medicine, which everybody hears. So hallway medicine gets worse because now something so simple as, hey, Dane's got a wound. So this PSW is going to come in. Delegated task is, kind of helping put some cream or dressing on that wound. It gets worse. Now that individual has to go to the hospital. There's a bed occupied. And that could have been addressed at home. So there's so many things that people don't realize. And then the unintended consequence of all that is now when I go to the ED, I'm there for 10 hours. Well, I'm there for 10 hours because there's people that are there that probably don't need to be there. And the other big thing, I'll get on my soapbox for a second, is the average person doesn't understand the healthcare system.
No.
Right? So now you don't understand the healthcare system and something's happened, 10 times worse.
So, okay, is there some key things to understand the healthcare system, I guess, that you would say there's these key things that you should know about the healthcare system?
Sure. My soapbox is, number one, from a government perspective and just in general, we have to figure out how to educate the public a little bit better that you don't have to go to the ED for everything, right?
Okay.
You can go to primary care or an emergent care office and get those stitches done. You don't have to go to the ED for everything.
So primary care, you're talking about just a doctor or a walk-in
or
clinic.
A walk-in clinic, right?
Okay.
But I think when we think of healthcare, I'd say the average person, if you said, what's the first thing when you think about if I ask you about healthcare? You're going to say the hospital. You're going to say those four walls of the hospital. And that's kind of the way the system has been trained and what we understand.
Yeah.
So now we're trying to move that away from just those four walls. And even if you talk to any doctor or physician in the hospital, they'll say that can be done in the community. But we have to educate the average individual and the public to understand and be comfortable to get that done outside of those four walls.
And trust. I think
Absolutely.
Comfortable comes with trust because we know that the hospital is pretty much where most of things happen and get done faster than if you go anywhere else.
It's a confidence. I think it's that, where am I more confident? Do I trust that the person coming to my home is going to do the same thing that the hospital can? And the answer is yes.
Okay.
But I don't think that the average individual will trust that that is true.
I agree with you 100%. I think we're conditioned to know that. And I think even if we talk to kindergarten kids, they would tell us,
of course,
go to the hospital. No one's saying, go to the walk-in where my mother already took me.
Correct.
They're like, go to the hospital. Yeah. So note is, so how do we educate ourselves a little bit more to know what can be done at home?
I think it's asking the questions.
Okay.
Feel comfortable Google's a wonderful thing, but Google's always not going to give you the right information, right?
Well, Google will tell us how to do certain things. Not
when
even
you Google it,
sorry.
or ChatGPT, whichever one you want to use. But, just ask the questions, whether it's your neighbor, whether it's a friend, whether it's somebody in the healthcare system, and call. Ontario Health is there.
Ontario Health, okay.
There's people there that can answer those questions, right? Telehealth. There's lots of options. I think we've got to I know we'll talk about technology probably later, but, get more comfortable with technology, get more comfortable with asking those questions. And I think, that's probably a start. And it's on us as individuals to find that information and look for what we're, asking to find out.
Okay, so we heard it here. We're not telling you to Google or ChatGPT your health problems. I'm telling you this now. My doctor knows this. I'm telling you not to do that. But what we are saying is telehealth. That's a good source because they'll let you know. Where was the other one that we could check?
There's 211. Ontario Health has resources if you're on their website. OHTs is something that I was part of, and they still exist in the landscape of Ontario. They're meant to be more of a localized kind of, here's what's in your community.
Okay.
And each community is also, the not-for-profits and the social services that, if you walked into there, they would guide you.
Okay.
If somebody is lower income and they need social work because they're trying to understand their finances or what can I afford, or, we all know what the price of groceries are right now. So if you need to find a food bank because that's the reality of where you are, then they can help with those things. So lots of local resources as well. And, again, those are, I think, important based in the communities. Okay.
And so, obviously the emergencies, the 911, we're not telling you not to do the 911 calls because obviously that's, I hate to say common sense, but in your gut when you need to call 911.
Absolutely.
But when it's something that looks like it will heal through time.
Correct.
And it's not the person is dying.
Correct.
Then it's a matter of calling to say, hey, is this something that you could treat at home?
Yeah, you're right. If it's life or death, we know what to do. You're calling 911, you're running to the emerge, you're doing all those things. But if it's just a little cut or a nick or even a deep cut, you can probably go, somewhere else in the ED. But each their own, they're going to make their decisions, right? And
make a responsible decision. Responsible decision. Okay, awesome. Any last bits of tips or anything that you would want to say in regards to wrapping up our conversation today that you would think of that people need to know?
Don't be afraid to ask the questions. If you're if you are a caregiver and you're feeling like you're burning out, you probably are. Talk to somebody, talk to a friend, find that support. If you can't afford it, there's other opportunities out there from respite that companies will do. If you are in a situation where you can't afford it, if you can, then you've got lots of options in front of you. So there's options is probably what I would say, and find that option that's the best fit for you and have the right conversations.
Okay. So wait, you said a key word and I'm not sure everybody knows it. Respite. What does respite mean?
So basically respite is basically giving yourself a bit of that care and time to take away that allows you to come back. So really someone's going to come in and relieve you for a period of time, right?
Okay.
As that caregiver, when you're taking care of somebody 24/7, you need that respite. You need that relief. So you can then just take some time, whether it's take a nap, go for a walk, go to a show, go with a friend. It's needed.
Okay. I love this. And so we're here it's self-care, it's caring for yourself. And then you've got a lot of support out there. I think that's also what you're saying too, is if you ask the right questions, you'll get answers to help you and support you, your loved ones. And obviously you got to support yourself in order to support your loved ones.
Absolutely.
So if you can't do that, it's not going to be self-serving. So you've got to first and foremost support yourself, and you may need a home care service to support yourself at home to then you can then support others. So you can then go visit someone else or do this or take care of your young ones or your older kids or something like that. Dane, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for coming. I hope everyone learned a little bit more about home care, healthcare, and just the importance of self-care as well. So thank you very much.